Alrighty. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Today, I am here with the faculty director for the MS Management Information Systems program, Kevin Cleary. My name is Meg Worth. I am the admissions advisor for School of Management graduate programs and particularly for the MS-MIS program. So today we are just here to answer your questions. So thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to join us for this session. We are going to go through some questions that cover the admissions process, that dive deeper into the program specifics. So I'll go ahead and answer any admissions related questions that come up, and Kevin will answer any of the program specific questions. So let's go ahead and get started. I will do the first few questions here. So the first question is, how long is the program and when do classes begin? So the MS-MIS program begins in the summer. It only has a summer start, and classes begin towards the beginning of July. And the program is 11 months long. The next question that we have is the GMAT or GRE required? So we are test optional admissions, meaning the GMAT GRE is not an admissions requirement. Students are more than welcome to take the test. If they have scores, they can upload those scores to boost their application, but it is not an admissions requirement. And the next question that we have is the application fee waived? No, the application fee is $100 and it is an admissions requirement in order for your application to move forward in the review process. Okay, so Kevin, the next question, I will pass it over to you. And that question is, are there course prerequisites and is work experience required, or do you recommend prior work experience for this program?
Yeah, hi, Meg. Thanks for having me today, and welcome to everybody that's kind of joining us synchronously here. So to answer that first question, it's a question we get a lot, and the answer is no. And I'm just going to share some talking points here with you guys. When we consider, where students are coming from that are interested in this program, students can kind of, come into this program from one of two perspectives. One is, one is, look, I have some managerial experience, or I have some leadership experience, or I have some subject matter expertise that kind of brushes up right alongside of or kind of flirts with technology in some way, but I don't have a strong technical backing. That's okay. That's part of what this program is meant to provide. Not only the latest and greatest technologies that are really driving technical innovation in our enterprise, in our organizations, but additionally then from the other side of the perspective, some of the managerial and leadership pieces as well. And so we have a lot of students that are coming to us with several years of engineering experience or system administration experience or software development experience. But then we have a lot of students that are coming to us with, look, they're established in their industry, but they want to gain exposure to more of those technologies. And so what we end up happening is, our students, we want them to walk away right kind of in the middle, having that combination, having that mixture both of strategic skills, strategic leadership skills, the ability to identify opportunities for innovation in the enterprise, and the ability to kind of responsibly use technology to not only meet organizational objectives, but to exceed organizational objectives and to exceed goals at the end of the day. And that's really the program in a nutshell. And so to say, do I need a certain level of background experience or a certain level of prerequisites or a certain amount of background knowledge? That answer is no. We do look for students that have some level of full-time professional experience, and that varies depending on what is in your application. We regard each application holistically. So I'll be spending a lot of time looking at your resumes, looking at your personal statements, looking at some of the other collateral, such as your prior academic experience. But all those things come together at the end of the day for me to kind of form a picture as to who you are as a candidate. Sometimes I will reach out and we will do one-on-one interviews as well. But in terms of what is the typical mold of an MIS student, there is none. And I like it that way. And, for me, what's important is a diverse set of backgrounds, a diverse set of experiences, a diverse set of student population, because that brings a lot to the program. And that's kind of what we strive for at the end of the day. Meg, that answers a lot more than just what that question was, but just some of my thoughts on that.
Thanks so much, Kevin. So the next question that we have is, what would you say are the benefits of a student earning a MS-MIS degree from UB?
Yeah, I mean, and to answer that a little, I think what I might do is let's talk about the differentiators, I think, first of this program and where this program stands out. I know there's other MIS programs out there. They vary all kind of subtly, and some of them have similarities. Some of them aren't called MIS programs, but really what this is at the end of the day is it's a STEM designated field. We have a STEM designation, and we, in terms of what I think are some of the differentiators of our programs, based on the competitive analysis we've done with other programs, is for starters, we're a fast-moving program. We are continually evolving. This program looks far differently, a lot different than it did even 2 years ago. Even this year, what the program looks like this year, next year's program is going to be even more involved from that. I was kind of telling Meg before we started the presentation here that I'm updating some of the slides and some of the curricular layout because we're always evolving. In a space, in an industry like this, you need to be always evolving. And so I kind of make no apologies for that. But so we're a program that's continually looking at the industry and trying to adjust with it. So what does that mean now? Emphasis on cybersecurity, emphasis on data and business analytics, definitely an emphasis on generative AI. We have a new generative AI career journey, and I'll show you guys the career journeys in a little bit. But we are constantly pivoting and kind of evolving with the direction the industry is going. Our faculty are a mix of both clinical, adjunct, and tenure track research faculty. So what does that mean for you guys? It means we are employing faculty that have various levels of professional experience. Many of them are VPs or chief engineers or chief product managers. They have a full-time day job where they're doing this stuff day in, day out, and then they come teach for us as well. Our clinical faculty have 10, 15, 20 years experience in the space. I myself was a former chief information security officer before I took on this role. And then we have faculty doing leading research in certain areas. And so what you get then with your curriculum and your classes is a blending of all of those perspectives and points of view. We're a very cost competitive program. Being part of New York State is does a pretty good job with highly subsidizing higher education across the board, across the state, so that we're able to then kind of offer very competitive tuition rates. The cost benefit analysis is quite positive for the University of Buffalo and for the State University of New York tuition structure. As Meg said, we're a 1-year program, but we make the most of that year. A lot of programs will say they're 1 year and they only do fall or spring. We throw in the winter session in there. We throw in, as Meg said, a summer start as well. That way, we really kind of give you guys the most experience in that year, and you're done then within the year. We have our own dedicated career resource center to kind of aid in a lot of to deliver a lot of workshops and networking opportunities and things to kind of get you started or to aid you in that career, that job hunt that you guys will be, embarking upon entering into your spring semester. Not a lot of other schools have that dedicated career resource center. Even here at the university, not a lot of other schools have that dedicated career resource center. We at the School of Management here do. The university is one of the largest in the world. We're a Research One designated member of the AAU accreditation, Middle States accreditation, AACSB accredited. So we have a lot of heft, a lot of weight. And what that means is we have a lot of resources behind with us. We're one of maybe 50 or 60 schools in the world with this intersection of credentials. As I mentioned, we're STEM designated, which means you will get that OPT extension. I saw that as on one of the question lists. You will then get that 36-month OPT extension. The other thing is there's a lot of honesty with our program. I will tell you what we are, and I will tell you what we're not. We're not one of the largest programs, but that's okay. That's by design. I don't want this program to be a diploma mill. I want to get to know each and every student. And, you're going to have a customized experience that is customized to you. that is based on what you want. We have a lot of elective structure. We have a lot of flex course structure to really kind of give you guys the ability to navigate the program the way you see fit with a good depth of electives so that you can go along your chosen career path, something we'll talk about more in a little bit. We have good placement stats. So we don't have, so our class that just graduated in 2024, we're not done with that data collection period yet. But what I will say for our 2023 class, even in the midst of all the big tech layoffs and economic corrections and things like that, we still had a 91, 92% placement at the end of the day with some really big, robust companies, which I can review later. And so, Meg, did I answer kind of what the gist of your question was? I've been talking so long, I forget what the original piece was.
Yeah, absolutely. That was a great overview of why our program stands out. So thank you so much, Kevin.
Mm-hmm.
And the next question we have, Professor Cleary, is can you provide some more details on the curriculum?
Yeah, yes, absolutely. So for that, let me share my screen again here. So as I kind of mentioned, because we're always kind of evolving and adapting our program structure, we're not entirely decided yet on what classes we're going to offer when. But what we can say is when you guys start in the summer, you will have two what we call flex core options. So your different courses as you progress through the program will fall primarily in three buckets. The first is a core. Okay, and we can see those here with our technology and innovation management class and with our statistical modeling class. Those are classes that all students must take. You know you need to take those two classes. Then we have another bucket called a flex core. And what that is it's strongly suggested you take these group of classes, but we give you options. You have to take 2 out of the 6 at the end of the day. If you want to take more, great. We encourage that. You can do that. That then, anything in excess of those 2 flex cores then falls into what's in our elective bucket. And those are freely possible, choosable electives that anybody can elect to take at the end of the day. In the summer, you will start off, we kind of ease you into the program. So you'll start off with 2 of your classes. There will also be maybe 1 or 2 boot camps that we expect you guys to do too. They're asynchronous. They're watching a video. They're doing it. You're taking an online quiz. Pretty low pain in terms of completion. Your fall semester will be a total of 4 classes, 2 cores, 2 electives. During the winter intersession, so this is where for our capstone option, we give all students 2 choices. One is you can complete a professional certification, and we have a pretty robust list, a pretty robust catalog of around 50 to 60 professional certifications that you can choose from. Usually students complete that over the winter term. Then comes the spring semester where there again, it's 4 classes in total. And depending on, you have a bit more flexibility in the spring semester. You can either have 3 electives in a flex core or 4 electives. Either way, a lot of choice built into that in terms of what you take. And then optionally, if you choose to, again, for that capstone option, if you want to choose instead of doing the certification in the winter, if you want to choose instead to do an internship over that second summer, we do make that option possible. And we will provide more advising in terms of which option is better. I will say most students tend to do the certification option just because the internship tends to be more beneficial for folks that don't have as much years of experience, and because of the way we kind of select candidates. But we can talk more about that later on when we actually get into the individual advising sessions. I meet with most students. Typical program size is anywhere between 130 students and 180 students. I usually end up meeting with 2/3 of all students just to have that conversation about career path, journey, things like that. As we look at kind of where some of the core pieces culturally of the program, within classes, we're not just building academic excellence, but we're also building some of the cultural pillars of professionalism, what it means to be a professional, especially in U.S. enterprise, and additionally, what your own personal, professional, academic integrity looks like. I was talking with a colleague of mine who's a grad director for a different program, and he had mentioned he's definitely noticed an uptick in personal statements, resumes that were definitely generated by generative AI. And look, let's be, again, honesty, right? One of the program pillars, let's be honest with ourselves. We all know we use generative AI shortcuts, right? I do it too. but it's something that I encourage all students to be really careful of, because what's happening is this grad director is seeing 5 resumes that all look the same, probably because everybody's doing the same prompt engineering and generative AI is producing 5 similar results. And so I digress a little there, but as the program evolves, it's not just about academic excellence. It's about professional excellence. It's about your personal integrity, and it's about your character, because these are all things that employers look for. Employers aren't going to ask to see your transcript. And they're not, I mean, they might as a background check, but they're not going to be hiring you at the end of the day based on transcript alone. A whole bunch of things need to come together. And so it's important to me in this program. And again, I think this is a differentiator. It's important to me for this program that we build you guys in all these areas and all these intersection of skills, so that when it comes time to actually, the real test you guys have at the end of the day isn't a test I'm going to give you. It's not a test your faculty are going to give you. It is, what does that interview look like? What does that first job look like? How do you net that first job? And so it's important to us that we have a balancing of all these things, because at the end of the day, employers are going to want to hear about more than just the classes you took. They're going to want to hear about the experience at the end of the day. And that's another thing that we try to deliver with this program, is not just the class components, but a whole bunch of other experiential things as well that you guys can then opt into, in terms of case studies, in terms of actual classes where you have, they almost kind of resemble internships in a way. And we can talk more about that later. But in terms of your career journey, the classes you pick and choose within that semester layout, when students initially view the list of electives, it is overwhelming, because we have a lot. Like we said, choice is important. The ability to navigate that is important. And so what we've done is we've kind of said, look, we can break this down into 6 general career journeys. And just like any journey you guys take in life, it's going to be unique. It's going to be your own roadmap that gets you to a destination. Your turn-by-turn GPS directions are going to look different than somebody else's turn-by-turn GPS directions. But kind of what we say is, look, our classes generally can fall into these broad buckets, whether we're talking about business analysis and consulting, whether we're talking about telling a story with data, whether that be data analysis, data analytics, some kind of forecasting into the future. We're growing more and more into the generative AI space. We have 2 brand new fresh electives that are dedicated just to generative AI. We're building generative AI as a topic organically into a lot of our other classes. I teach a cybersecurity class, and I've spent 2 full weeks talking about nothing but generative AI. And so we are weaving that in where appropriate. As I mentioned, information security, cybersecurity, the ability to be resilient in the face of some kind of a disaster. That's a big area for us as well. And it's also a big area of hiring. Product management is really big. So when we look at organizations' ability to develop new products, that portfolio or that suite of products, what our roadmap or our strategic direction is for the types of things we're making and developing, that's a big area as well. And then the strategic enterprise architecture. So what is the technology scaffolding, the elements that we put in place so that we can build upon those technological elements to achieve our organizational goals? And so those are kind of the big structures at the end of the day, the big types of journeys at the end of the day that our electives fall into, that our career paths fall into.
Thanks, Kevin, for diving deeper into the curriculum there. Okay, and then the final question we have before we move into student submitted questions is, do you have any information on the outcomes for MIS students? What is the market demand like, and what are some career path options that you see our alumni getting into?
Yeah, and so I talked about that placement a little already. So, statistically from the data we collected, at least for our fall 2020, our spring 23 grads, we're still collecting data from our spring 24 grads. We had a 91% placement rate overall, which I think, and it was really close to 92, which I think is great, given some of the upheaval we've seen in the industry. And by the way, I'm using the term upheaval. It's not really upheaval. A lot of it is industry hype at the end of the day. But we can kind of see here on this slide some of the top employers for our graduates, some of the top organizations that we typically work with as a pipeline into different kinds of jobs and different kind of recruitment opportunities. Now, one of the things in general with technology positions is it is a discipline that doesn't necessarily follow a neat semesterly or academic year path. And so if we look at things like accounting or finance, those are industries that are kind of more in tuned to the recruitments. They tune their recruitment cycles to academic cycles. The technology industry doesn't do that as much. And so what we find is the recruitment season, quote unquote, for MIS students or for students that are focusing in technology or engineering in general tends to be kind of more spread out evenly throughout the year rather than having those busy March and April and May months where everybody gets jobs all at once. It's kind of spread out more across. A lot of students are worried about the state of the labor market here in the U.S. Are we going to have a soft or a hard economic landing? Would we even know it when we had that landing? What is the Federal Reserve doing in terms of interest rates and things like that? And that tends to capture a lot of the media headlines. Something that has captured the media headlines a lot is, all the big tech layoffs, and big tech is hemorrhaging positions. And that's not necessarily a true story. And kind of what we found is there's been a little bit of a pullback, at least from big tech in terms of hiring. But most MIS positions, most technology positions aren't in big tech. Big tech is usually just a lot of the services or the software providers, but organizations of all kinds of different shapes, sizes, colors need technology innovation. And so, big tech in particular had kind of gone on a hiring spree during the pandemic. And I get it, right? I feel like whenever we want to blame a weird reason on something, we always focus on the pandemic, even though the pandemic was 4 years ago. But in this case, it's true. We did a lot of hiring during the pandemic, more than the big tech top five should have. And now what they're doing is they're just right sizing for the industry, and they're coming in line with pretty much nearly every other industry out there. And so I don't think there's reason for concern. Students are having to work for interviews, and with anything else, the top students get the top positions. And I like to think that our students are the top students. And like I said, that 92 placement rate is something I'm pretty proud of. And there again, we're very honest about that statistic. We don't inflate that. We don't game that. We don't try to make it look better better than it is, like perhaps some other institutions do. You can have trust in that number and trust in me that I'm accurately conveying that number. And so that's some of the career pathways, some of the major employers. But like I said, all areas of the world need technology innovation. It's not just for profit. It can be small startups. It can be not-for-profits. It can be community-based organizations, something we work a lot here with. I know I'm working a project right now where I'm working with several community-based organizations to run a free cybersecurity clinic that I then staff with students. And so positions, opportunities come about in a lot of different ways. I think probably much more diverse and with a lot more variability than you might see in some other business school fields.
Thanks, Kevin. So, you all submitted questions probably during the registration process. I'm going to skip through ones that were already covered, and I'm just going to go through the ones that may not have been answered yet. So the first question that I see that I don't think we've touched upon is, are graduate assistantship positions available to international students? Yes. All graduate students will have the opportunity to apply for graduate teaching and research assistantship opportunities. There is an application process, an interview process to get an assistantship. If you are selected, typically there is an additional tuition scholarship or a stipend or both. Kevin, I don't know if you want to add anything about the teaching assistantships or the research assistantships.
No, I think you covered it pretty well. There these either TA positions or GA positions don't grow on trees, and so we don't have enough positions for every single student, but there are ways to kind of navigate that, and they are there. I have a TA, and I'm looking at hiring another GA. And so, yeah, the positions are there. Sometimes you got to work with faculty a little, especially if it's more so a GA or what we call sometimes a research assistant, an RA type position. That has to kind of be a relationship that forms organically with faculty. For example, I won't have research assistants in the fall semester because it takes me that long to get to know students, to figure out who would be able to work well with me. And so, what I do caution students on is a lot of students will just send out those blanket form letter emails written in Chat GPT to every faculty member they can find. That comes across to me personally as rather cold and impersonal, and that's not the kind of relationship I want to have when I'm working with a research assistant. And so, but Meg, I think you answered the other pieces of that question dead on.
Perfect. So the next question I see is, after my program, is there an opportunity for me to work like a postgraduate work permit? So I think Kevin did touch on it earlier, but this is a STEM designated program, so you will receive 36 months total of OPT. And what that means is you can stay in the US and you'll have 36 months to find work, and then hopefully your employer will then sponsor you to continue working past those 36 months. Okay, the next question. Kevin, could you talk a little more about the summer internship and how that works and what the process is of a student getting the summer internship to fulfill the capstone?
Yes. So we want to be careful with the I word, internship, because it can mean different things for domestic versus international students. For domestic students, you have there's a lot less you need to worry about. There's a lot more flexibility with when and where we can offer an internship. Now, there's an internship as it exists so that you can gain the experience, and there's internships that for the program are credit bearing for the program. Due to certain international regulations, we can't actually have students start working at least international students. You guys legally can't work an internship until you've been in the program for a full academic year. And so that's an important thing to keep track of. Certainly on-campus positions don't apply to that, but it has to be something that you're careful of when you're accepting positions. What I usually say is, look, you can do an internship and not require the credit for it. You can confer in May. You can choose the certification option, confer, and still take an internship, both for domestic and international students. It's just your first job out of college then. And some students might say, well, I got offered an internship versus, oh, I got offered a tier 1 position. Oh, I got offered an entry level position. Depending on who the hiring manager is, they could call it 3 different things. And so there's even variability in terms of what is an internship at the end of the day. But in terms of what is credit bearing for the program, the internship can only be done during the second summer, again, per immigration rules. And that is something that we would then give 3 months CPT onto that. Now, what I will tell most students is it's 3 months CPT versus if you just go straight into OPT, that's 3 years then. And I've had quite a few students give me feedback to say, look, Professor Cleary, I didn't want to chance it. So I just went directly into OPT because I didn't want to risk taking an internship for 3 months, not have that internship renewed, and then I had to start the whole job hunting process all over again. So it's a convoluted answer because it's a convoluted problem, because the answer is different for domestic students than it is for international students. The answer is different if you want to do an internship not for credit versus if you want to do an internship for credit. Now, that's something that we can bring more clarity to. And, when I have those initial meetings with students, I can talk through those, a little bit more customized to your perspective, your point of view, your experience, and what you want to get out of the program at the end of the day.
Thanks, Kevin. So the next question I see here is, and you touched on it, everyone's journey is different in terms of electives that they're selecting. But this student submitted a question that says, is it possible to change your career journey after the beginning of classes? And I guess you said, it's flexible. Students can pick a career journey to follow. Do you see students typically staying within the career journey that they select, or is there many students that dive into different career journeys as they go through the semesters?
Yes to all. And so the way I'll answer that first is, when you enroll in classes in a given semester, so let's say you're here in the summer and then you enroll for classes in the fall, past our drop add deadline date, you're locked into those classes for the fall. But you might sit through a class in the fall and say, this is a topic that's really interesting. I didn't think it would be. Or This is a topic that just isn't jiving, isn't resonating with me. That then informs the types of selections you then make in the spring. And I would even say the same can be true of the fall semester as well, based on the things you're doing in your summer class. And so I've had many students make a pivot. I've had many students say, you know what, I walked in here thinking I was going to do product management, and I took this, analytics class, or I took the cybersecurity class, and now I'm finding that this really interests me. And great, that's fine. That grad school is the time that you want to figure those things out and do that experimentation. You don't want to spend 5 years in a job and then realize you hate it, or hate it for the 5 years you're in it before you're able to work your way out of it. Something, though, that a lot of students find, and this is part of why we have structured our career journeys the way we have, is, remember when I said everybody's journey is different. Everybody's GPS turn by turn is different for what classes they take or don't take that makes sense for them. There's a lot of merging of those career fields. We can talk about data privacy and ethics as part of business analytics. We can talk about product security and cybersecurity as part of digital product management. We can talk about cloud technologies as part of enterprise architecture. And so, there's a lot of ways in which students mix or match multiple journeys together to really kind of make the experience their own at the end of the day.
Thanks, Kevin. The next question that was submitted earlier today was, what would you say to students that are concerned that they lack technical skills?
Yeah, so like we kind of covered in that slide where I had the triangle in the middle, and you're either coming to things from some level of professional experience or subject matter experience, or some things of technical experience. You do not need hardcore technical experience to be successful in this program. You just need to be prepared that there's going to be some learning along the way. And as we get further along, especially when we start doing virtual orientations and things like that, I can tell some of the non-technical students, maybe you want to take an introductory, just even view some introductory videos on Python or structured query language, because database management systems is going to be one of your first classes. But we will part of our role here is to give you some of that technical know-how. We're not expecting all students to walk in being programmers, being system engineers. That's part of the information, the knowledge that we provide you.
Thanks, Kevin. The next question that was submitted says, my final goal is to become a solution architect. Can this program help me achieve my dreams? And also, I have a keen interest in entrepreneurship.
Yes to both. I mean, in more and more, we are adopting more business style electives. There's actually two we added this semester that we've never had before. And so a lot of those strategic management type things, or marketing optics type things, or entrepreneurial type things, yes, we have classes for that. And in terms of solution architecting at the end of the day, I mean, yes, in my mind, that kind of falls into the consulting, business analysis bucket in terms of a career journey. And we definitely have, a set of structured classes built around that.
Thank you. And then, Kevin, I know you and I have talked about this question, but it's another question that was submitted for today's session, is how is the MS and MIS program different from MS Business Analytics?
Yeah, so business analytics actually grew out of the MIS program. I like to kind of brag that my program gave birth to this other program, this business analytics program. We offer a lot of the same electives as data analytics, as business analytics. And in fact, the two programs follow each other in structure quite closely, even down to the orientation. We have the orientation with both groups together. And so there's a lot of overlap between those two programs. I would say the business analytics program does focus more on some of the mathematical modeling pieces. But there are a lot of, within the MIS program, we do have predictive analytics, we do have healthcare analytics, we do have cybersecurity analytics. We still have statistical modeling, which is actually a core. And so there still is that ability to have that be a specialization. It's just not quite as focused as what you might have in the business analytics program.
Thanks, Kevin. So that was all the questions that were submitted in the registration process. So now, if anyone on the call has any other questions that they feel were not answered, you can go ahead and type those in the chat. I'll go ahead and address this first question that I see here. which is I have applied. When will I hear back about my admissions decision? So on our website, and I'm going to go ahead and share my screen just so I can explain this to students. Okay, so on our website here, you can see we have multiple rounds of admissions. The first round and the first deadline is January 15th. That's going to be the priority deadline for scholarship consideration. So if you haven't applied yet, or you're not sure when to submit your application, applications are open now, and we definitely encourage students to submit it by January 15th, as it is the priority deadline. Now, this decision notification column is what you're going to want to look at. So anyone that has submitted a application on or before January 15th will have a decision by February 15th. Now, you could have a decision sooner than that. It really just depends on the volume of applications we're receiving, how fast your application goes through the processing phase, as well as the committee review. But these are going to be the dates you'll want to look out for as decision notifications and based on when you submitted your application.